You're sitting at your kitchen table at 11 p.m. Laptop open, 17 browser tabs stacked on top of each other. One tab says Best Index Funds 2026. Another says, is real estate still worth it? A third is a Reddit thread where someone lost 40%. You feel it in your chest, that tight, sinking feeling, like everyone else got a manual for money that you never received. And here's the strange part. The people with the most money, the actual billionaires, aren't doing any of this. They're not day trading. They're not chasing the next hot coin. Their core retirement wealth sits in something almost boring. You'd expect complexity from people with private jets. Instead, you find a formula so simple a teenager could write it on a napkin. And here's what I eventually figured out. I'm not a hedge fund manager. I don't wear a suit to work. And for a long time, I thought portfolio was a word for artists. A few years ago, I had a 401k I never looked at, a vague fear about Social Security, and a spreadsheet I opened once and never opened again. What changed things wasn't a secret stock tip. It was realizing that the ultra-wealthy don't win because they're smarter than you. They win because they follow one dead simple structure, consistently, for a very, very long time. Today I want to walk you through that structure. No jargon, no fear-mongering, just a formula and how a regular person can actually use it. Let me introduce you to two people. Let's call them Mark and Dana. Both are 36 years old. Both live in Ohio. Both make around $62,000 a year. Same job type, same starting line. Mark believes wealth comes from being clever. He moves money in and out of whatever's trending. Name stocks in 2021. Crypto in 2023. But you can absolutely decide, starting right now, which seeds you plant. He's not lazy. He's actually trying harder than most people. He just keeps swinging for something spectacular. Dana does something almost embarrassingly simple. She puts a fixed percentage of every paycheck into a diversified portfolio. She doesn't check it daily. She barely checks it monthly. By every measure, Mark seems like the more financially engaged one. He reads more, talks more, researches more. But there's a picture forming here, and I promise you, it's not the one you'd expect. Here's the first thing that surprised me. Billionaires don't get rich from a single genius trade. Most of them get rich once, usually from a business, and then they get unbelievably consistent about protecting and growing that wealth afterward. Think of it like an orchard. You don't grow an orchard by planting 100 different species and hoping one survives. You pick a handful of proven trees. You plant them. You water them on a schedule. And then, this is the part nobody likes, you wait. Mark is planting a new tree every few months, ripping up the last one when it doesn't fruit fast enough. Dana planted her trees once. She waters on schedule. That's it. That's the whole level. The fear I want to remove right here, right now. You do not need 50 different investments to be considered diversified or smart. You need a few reliable ones, watered consistently for a long time. Now let's talk about what those trees actually are. For most billionaires' personal portfolios, separate from their businesses, a huge share sits in broad, low-cost index funds. Simple ownership of hundreds or thousands of companies at once, instead of betting on one. For you, the version of this is available inside a 401k or a Roth IRA. A low-cost total market or S&P 500 index fund is the closest thing regular Americans have to what billionaires use to grow the money that isn't tied up in their companies. Here's the concept that removes the next fear. You don't need to pick winners. The index already contains the winners. Amazon, Apple, whatever the next big company turns out to be, it's already in there when it grows. You don't need to predict it. You just need to own the whole orchard, not one tree. Dana doesn't know which company will be the next Nvidia. She doesn't need to. Her orchard already includes it. The third piece is the one people resist the most. Time left alone. Billionaires rarely touch their long-term holdings. Not because they don't need cash. They have other income, but because they understand something most of us were never taught in school. Money needs boredom to grow. Every time Mark panic sells or jumps to the next big thing, he resets his clock. He starts the growth process over. Meanwhile, Dana's money has been quietly compounding, untouched, through every dip and every scary headline. This is where I want to tease something, because it gets uncomfortable. Coming up, I'm going to show you the actual math on Mark and Dana, and the gap between them by retirement age is going to bother you in a good way. Stay with me. Let's run the numbers. And you're not a both Mark and Dana invest $500 a month starting at age 36. That's it. Same amount, same starting age. Dana's path, consistent, diversified, untouched. Year 1, $6,000 contributed, rose to about $6,300. Year 10, $60,000 contributed, rose to roughly $94,000. Year 20, $120,000 contributed, grows to roughly $296,000. Year 30, age 66, $180,000 contributed, grows to roughly $815,000, assuming an average 8% annual return, which is close to the long-term historical average of the U.S. stock market. Read that again. She put in $180,000 of her own money over 30 years. The market did the rest, over $600,000 of it. Mark's path, chasing trends, panic selling during dips, jumping between hot picks. Studies on investor behavior, including research from Dalbar and multiple academic studies on retail investing, consistently show that the average investor earns several percentage points less per year than the market itself, simply because of bad timing decisions. If Mark averages just 4% instead of 8% because of that behavior, his same $180,000 in contributions grows to roughly $340,000. Let that sink in. Same income, same monthly amount, same 30 years. A difference of almost $475,000, not because Dana was smarter, but because she was quieter. According to Fidelity's retirement research, workers who never touched their 401k allocations during the volatile 2020 market downturn ended up with meaningfully higher average balances. Doing less was the strategy. Here's what nobody talks about. We've been sold this idea that wealthy people got wealthy through brilliance, secret information, or connections we don't have. And for the business itself, sure, sometimes that's true. But for the portfolio, the actual retirement wealth, the uncomfortable truth is this. The strategy that builds it is available to literally anyone with a 401k or a Roth IRA and the patience not to touch it. The real advantage billionaires have isn't a formula you can't access. It's that they're not emotionally attached to checking their balance every day. They already feel secure, so they don't panic. You and I panic because we feel behind, and that panic is exactly what causes the underperformance we just calculated. The formula was never hidden. The hard part was never information. The hard part was always emotional regulation. I was always double-balanced. So how do you actually survive this phase? The years where your account feels small and the growth feels invisible. I think the honest answer is this. You stop measuring your progress by your balance and start measuring it by your behavior. The hard part was always emotional regulation. Here are 3 things that actually helped me get through that phase. First, automate it so there's no decision to make. If the contribution happens before you see the money, you remove the daily willpower fight entirely. Second, mute the noise on purpose. Financial media is designed to create urgency because urgency keeps you watching. You are allowed to simply not check your account for a month at a time. Nothing bad happens when you don't look. Third, remind yourself that boring is the strategy, not the failure to have a strategy. The version of you that feels behind is comparing your year 3 to someone else's year 20. Compare your year 3 to your own year 1 instead. This is where the orchard metaphor really earns its keep. Nobody stands over a sapling in April, yelling at it for not being an apple tree yet. Growth like that just isn't visible on a daily timescale. Yours isn't either. If you're in your 30s or early 40s, your action step is simple. Open or increase contributions to a Roth IRA or 401k today, even if it's a small amount. Your mindset shift. Time is doing most of the work right now, not the size of your contribution. You have decades of compounding ahead. Don't waste them chasing shortcuts. If you're in your 50s, your action step is to check your 401k and Roth IRA contribution limits because catch-up contributions exist specifically for you and take advantage of your mindset shift. You are not behind in the way panic tells you. You likely have 15 to 20 more years of growth ahead, which is still enough time for real compounding to work. If you're in your 60s or a late starter, your action step is to talk to a fee-only financial advisor about how to structure Social Security timing alongside any retirement savings you do have, since delaying benefits even a few years can meaningfully raise your monthly income for life. Your mindset shift. You are not behind in the way panic tells you. You likely have 15 to 20 more years of growth ahead, which is still enough time for real compounding to work. Your mindset shift. Retirement isn't a single finish line you either cross or fail. It's a transition you can shape, even starting later than you'd like. Here's what the orchard eventually teaches you. If you stick with it long enough, you don't remember most of the days you watered it. You don't remember March of year 7 or the random Tuesday you made your contribution without thinking twice. What you remember is standing under it decades later, a little surprised at how tall it got, wondering how something that felt like nothing at the time turned into something that changed your whole life. Billionaires didn't discover a formula the rest of us can't access. They just stopped needing it to be exciting. Maybe that's the real permission you needed today, to let your financial life be a little boring, and let boring do what it's always done quietly, in the background, for everyone patient enough to let it. If this reframed anything for you, the next video walks through exactly how to set up a Roth IRA step by step, even if you're starting from zero. It might be worth watching next.